Welcome everyone to Breaking Big Blue. I'm your host Jordan Ron on ESPN, ESPN.com. Giants reporter, and we're here with the home opener edition. Giants home opener Sunday night. Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs coming in to MetLife Stadium on Sunday night. Should be a huge game, right? Here's the thing. Both teams come into this game at 0-2. Giants, maybe somewhat expected, should have probably won. Should have definitely won that game in Dallas, considering the way it played out. Didn't, but the Chiefs, a surprise coming here at 0-2, and now they're in desperation mode. So are the Giants, but the Chiefs are a team that usually wakes up and they're in the Super Bowl, right? Patrick Mahomes wakes up and he's in the AFC Championship game. He's in jeopardy now, if they don't win this game, of not making the playoffs. 0-3 is essentially the death knell in the NFL. So, big game here coming up. When you look at it from a Giants perspective, I want to start here, and then we'll get into what I've heard this week. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But I want to start here because this is their home opener. Everyone's usually supposed to be pumped up, hyped for the home opener. Right now, I think everyone's angry because of the way they're 0-2, but that's not even just that they're 0-2, the way they blew the game in Dallas. Everyone's mad at Shane Bowen. They're mad at the whole defense. They're mad at Brian Dable. They're mad at James Hudson for losing his mind on the field. All those things. But now you're coming home opener. Everyone's supposed to be excited. It's supposed to be a big party. You're supposed to be good at home. If you don't win at home in the NFL, by the way, it's basically over for you. You get no shot. The Giants, meanwhile, 22-43. Over the past 7 seasons, actually since 2017. 22-43 at MetLife Stadium. Now, I know they haven't been a good team, but even bad teams usually win at home. I mean, I had it in my phone, list of their record, 1-8 last season. They had a bunch of seasons where they were 2-6, 2-6, 2-6, 2-6, 3-5, 3-5, 5-3, 4-4. So the first 2 years of Brian Dable to Joe Shane, okay, 5-3 good, obviously 2022 when they made the playoffs. 4-4, now you're talking about when they went 6-11. So actually that's not terrible but that's usually how it works. You could be a bad team and still be like a 500 team at home. But the Giants been so bad at home, 22-43. We're talking about a 380 winning percentage. A winning percentage under 40%. There needs to be some sort of home field advantage. Crowd has to be loud. There has to be noise. It has to be difficult for the opposing team. Like, that matters in the NFL. It does. It's not the ultimate difference maker, but there's a reason why teams are definitively better at home, the good teams especially. Definitively better at home. It's so much harder going into Baltimore and beating the Ravens. So we'll see, and I get it. MetLife Stadium, you don't like it. I don't like it either. I think it's completely antiseptic. Looks like an air conditioner. Home field advantage isn't what it should be. Of course, there's home field advantage everywhere. The majority of the fans are still Giant fans. But I can go. I got an email this week about buying tickets to the home opener for the Giants. Right? You can still go and get tickets probably right now to the Giants home opener. Especially on the secondary market. Like, they're out there. And opposing fans more and more and more over the years have been coming to the Giants Stadium, to MetLife Stadium. And that does hurt your home field advantage a little bit. I'm not saying that's the reason in any way, shape, or form that the Giants are 22-43 since 2017 at home at MetLife Stadium. And it's not the atmosphere. So, but they have made changes there this year. There's new video boards. They're really putting emphasis on the messaging and the marketing. It's more, it's not just, okay, we were good back in the 80s. It's going to be looking towards the future and the current of this team. I've seen around the stadium all the better players, the star players. They have their pictures, murals on the wall throughout the stadium. Like, promoting this current version of the Giants. No more like, hey, you know what? we were good when we had Lawrence Taylor or Carl Banks. Or, hey, remember Eli Manning? So there's also going to be a new chant I've heard that's out there. It's sort of a Go Big Blue chant. I think it's just like a Go Big Blue, something along those lines, and continue to repeat it over and over. And I think that's something they're going to institute this year. So it'll be interesting to see if that catches on. I'm curious what your opinions are. Well, I think it'll be important to see and hear it with 70,000 people in MetLife at once to see if it works and see if it catches on. Obviously, the traditional Giant chant is defense. And they need to play better defense. And then, defense, like that's, or defense, or whatever. The versions of the defense chant, those are traditional old school Giants chants. And I think fans want to rely on that, but I don't think a new chant is a terrible idea. Maybe it can catch on. But the biggest thing here is the product on the field has to be good. It can't keep being crap. You can't just keep feeding people crap and saying, hey, give me your money. And those people aren't going to be like, hey, here's my money. I'm just going to sit here. By the way, in December, when you're 2-10 in 20 degrees, no, they're going to sell their ticket and make some of their money back. They got hit up with the seat license thing. We don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. We all know how terrible and bad that was for business and an investment for the Giants season ticket holders, Jets season ticket holders anywhere throughout the country that got stuck with that seat license garbage. Devalued everybody's seat, essentially. But the most important thing is this Giants team needs to put a good product on the field. We saw what the offense could do this past week against the Cowboys. Say, okay, that's what we are at our best. Throwing the ball down the field. That's what Russell Wilson does well still at this point. He throws the ball well downfield. Malik Neighbors can go up and get it. Wan'Dale Robinson is proving he can make plays down the field. Darius Slayton is a deep ball guy. Even though his numbers aren't great, he actually, on top of what he's produced, he has also gotten 2 pass interference penalties deep down the field. So he can be successful in that role for sure. Darius Slayton, by the way, went on X Twitter the other day and took offense to some guys basically taking shots at him while lauding Malik Neighbors. I thought that was kind of humorous, but knowing Darius Slayton, he's just messing around and actually went and started engaging with fans, which is at this point sort of unheard of, right? Fans are just allowed to say whatever they want for the most part, especially on social media, and there's no repercussions. You almost expect players not to respond. So I thought it was pretty funny that he responded. But that's what the offense can be at its best. A deep strike offense. If they can hold up front against the Chiefs, I expect the same thing again. This is a Chiefs defense that's probably the strength of the team at this point. I know they have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce at the end of his career, but this defense is really good. It is a really good defense. So I don't think it's going to be as easy as playing the Dallas Cowboys. Giants are going to have a lot more difficulty getting the ball downfield. They're going to have a lot more difficulty just shoving it to Malik Neighbors every play. Trent McDuffie's a really good cornerback. Neighbors said he respects him. That's an interesting matchup. I mean, I still don't think that if you're the Chiefs and you're Steve Spagnuolo, you're going to want to say, well, Trent McDuffie, you go and guard Malik Neighbors the whole time. Malik Neighbors will win against anybody in this league right now, I believe. There's nobody that's going to completely shut him down. If they go that route, I think he could still do some damage. He could still put up some numbers. So it'll be interesting to see how that's approached. But that's what the offense is at its best. The defense at its best, I don't think we've seen that yet. They were okay in the opener, right? Not great, but good enough to keep him in the game. They struggled. They were bad in week 2. They blew it at the end. Soft call, let them go down the field. easily kick a field goal. Easily, the guy hit a 64-yarder, but get too easily into field goal range. The critique on Shane Bowen, we'll get to that in a few minutes. But this defense, A, they're going to have to stop the run better, right? And B, they're going to have to protect that middle of the field better. They've struggled against tight ends in the middle of that field, against the play action. So this is going to be a test because Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are desperate. And the Giants are 6.5-point underdogs in this game. At home, in your home opener, you're 6.5-point underdogs. That tells you what people think of you and where you are as a franchise. When you in your home opener are almost a touchdown underdog in prime time, Sunday night, man, what has happened to the Giants? Got to protect that home field if they want to be a good organization. On to the next one. All right, this is a segment we're going to call What We've Heard. Everything I kind of heard in the locker room and press conferences throughout the week. And I want to start with the Shane Bowen stuff because that's been a big thing. Fans are all over Shane Bowen. And he hasn't done a great job, right? Fair. Call late in the game against the Cowboys, a bad one. Absolutely. Let them get into field goal range rather easily. It was played poorly. They actually still did throw it down the field, but want to be more aggressive in that spot to try and keep the Cowboys from kicking the game-tying field goal. So Shane Bowen is under fire. When he talked this week, he said, he second guesses. He wishes they had tighter coverage. And, he went and he basically, and I spoke to a bunch of players about this, he went in there and said that, that's my bad. That's the wrong call there. I got to be better with my calls. And he basically had to admit his mistakes to the players. But I also asked a bunch of guys, because this is what I do with my job, right? You have the opportunity to go talk to guys, get a feel, and just talk off the record and get a sense. And I like to find out, before I take a hard stance on something, I like to go run it up by other people. So to make sure I'm on the right side of history. So I talked to a bunch of guys in the locker room about this, right? About how if they thought Shane Bowen was a big problem and they didn't have confidence in him, if this was a real thing. And the impression I got from that was that, no, they do have confidence in Shane Bowen. They don't think that he's a big problem and that he's a bad defensive coordinator. That if you go read social media, he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, this is a guy who's had some success in the past. Granted, it might have been Mike Vrabel's defense, but he didn't just forget what good run defense looks like. They had a top run defense every year in Tennessee, right? He didn't just forget how to call red zone defense and design red zone defense. They've abandoned it the first, I think, week one they were all right. Last week, their red zone defense was bad. That's something that he usually does a good job with. Now, is he bland? Is he, super aggressive? Absolutely not. That's not what you're getting with Shane Bowen. But the Giants knew what they were getting when they hired him. And he's not an overly aggressive coach. He's not a super aggressive coach. He's not going to come with all these different unique blitzes and come from all these different angles and come with stuff out of the woodwork. But I do believe from talking to people in the locker room that they have confidence in him. So we'll see where this goes. Look, I'm sitting here and you think, why are you defending him? I actually don't love him as a coordinator. I don't think he's great, but I also don't think he's terrible. If you look at the Giants are 3-16 since he became defensive coordinator, right? They've been a bad team overall. But in those 19 games, what's the primary problem been? It hasn't been Shane Bowen and his defense. It's been the offense for primarily those games. Now, granted, it was different on Sunday, and it was different in the Cowboys game. But their problem during that time, it's not like, Shane Bowen doesn't know how to coach, they're losing because of Shane Bowen. No. When you make a list of things that he's on the list. Their defense is on the list. It hasn't been good, but certainly not at the bottom of the list. And I don't get the impression that the Giants are going to move on from Shane Bowen in the middle of the season. They don't do that very often with coaches, if at all. And I'd be very surprised. I mean, I'm talking about coordinators. It's pretty rare during a season. Like, I know that Mark Colombo was fired during a season, offensive line coach. but there was extenuating circumstances to that, obviously, the relationship between him and Joe Judge. But I don't expect the Giants to move on from Shane Bowen during this season unless it goes so far south that it's unsalvageable. And then what's the solution? You bring in what? Andre Patterson, who, by the way, the Giants didn't even give a sniff at the defensive coordinator job when it was open. You think they really want to do that? He didn't even get an interview for the defensive coordinator job. He's the defensive line coach. And by the way, how's the Giants, how's it run defense been? How's his run defense been for the last few years? It's been one of the biggest problems with the defense has been their run defense. Has been a sieve for 3 years now. So I don't think that they would, people are like, oh, you could just give it to Andre Patterson. What? They didn't even want to give him a token interview for the job. So I don't see that happening. So I think Shane Bowen is here. Do they need better from him? Absolutely. Should he be more aggressive in late in games and spots like that? I absolutely think that. Has he been good? No. Especially so far this season. Needs to be better. But, he's got some talent to work with. Let's see if they can put it together moving forward. I do think also, sometimes these are things, especially when you're look, they have a new safety in Holland. They have a new starting cornerback in Adebo. Like, these are significant players. You have Abdul Carter you're trying to add to the mix. You have a new inside linebacker next to Bobby Okereke because they're so banged up right now. Darius Alexander, a young guy who hasn't even been active. I guess he was active. He hasn't really played a little bit, but not well. Darius Alexander working into the mix. Another rookie who they want to be a big piece. Roy Robertson Harris in the middle of the defense. So there's a lot of new pieces in this unit. I thought it would take a little time to come together. I didn't think they would come out and be great early in the season. But also, you can't be as bad as they were in Dallas. Can't be that bad. Also, Malik Neighbors. A little just tying some loose ends from the previous game. He was talking about, by the way, and one last thing on Shane Bowen. Listening to him speak, he seemed pretty beat down. And I'm just talking about how he projected in his press conference. And I'm making an assumption based off that. He seemed pretty down. It feels like he knows the heat is on him. So keep an eye on that. Malik Neighbors was asked about the interception at the end of the game, and he started saying, no, whose fault were you at fault? He started saying, no, he wasn't at fault. And then he kind of switched mid-answer to, yeah, you know what? It's 100% on me, which is him taking accountability. But to me, it's saying, no, that really wasn't my fault, because think about it. He went out on that play, right? And there was a safety just sitting back there over the top. Like, that's where the open space was. Now, Russell Wilson felt a little pressure. You saw the little pitter-patter of his feet, and he just heaved it up. It makes me think that Neighbors did read it right in that case, because the play wasn't to go deep there and turn it into a deep post. It was to turn it into an out, at least if you're talking about where the space was, because they were just playing him with a safety over the top there waiting for him. So, but Malik Neighbors did take the accountability. He did take the blame, even though from his answer, I did not come away thinking he actually was to blame. Here's a big thing for this week. They're playing the Chiefs. Chiefs, strong, stout defensive front. Not the best pass rushers, but George Karlaftis, Chris Jones. They've got some guys there that play with power, right? Marcus Bowe is excellent, and especially considering it was his first real significant game action. The one thing he struggles with is power a little bit. I would have been a little concerned if he's starting. The Giants, now we'll see how it plays out. Andrew Thomas still has to get through the rest of the week. I'm taping this on Friday morning without any setbacks. But the Giants at practice this week were planning, and Andrew Thomas was taking the reps as if he's going to be the starter. Now we'll see. I'll believe it when I see it, when he's back on the field. Because I still was speaking to people in the locker room, and there still seems to be some question about whether he's going to be able to come back this week. He needs to be at 100%. He needs to feel like himself, and like where the foot is not bothering him. And I'm not sure we're there yet. But there's a real chance, at least this week. There was at least on Thursday. Haven't checked in yet this morning. Then Andrew Thomas plays. And that means you don't have to see James Hudson, who also said, my bad, I can't lose my cool. He definitely lost his cool, lost his composure, and it went off the rails. But I also thought it was interesting. Brian Daboll's like sort of excusing some of it. One of them wasn't his fault, and I don't want guys to not be aggressive. I still want the aggressiveness. Like, you need to rein your guys in a little bit here. If they come out here and they go and they commit another 10 double-digit penalty game, they have 10 penalties for, let's say, 120 yards, like, your rhetoric, and this is what he's telling the team, is saying publicly, and the team behind closed doors, is keep that aggressiveness. I don't want you to lose that aggressiveness. Those aggressive penalties we'll take, that's fine. It's the pre- and post-snap penalties that he said that really bother him. But there has to be a line. You can't cross that line. So you still need to be disciplined. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. And James Hudson, we're not going to see him for a little while. I know, hopefully if Andrew Thomas plays, probably not the rest of the year. And even then, I think Marcus Bowe will be ahead of him on the depth chart now. So that's where we stand on things we heard throughout the week. On to the next one. All right, let's wrap up here a little quick. Jordan on the beat. This is where I tell you what it's like to cover the Giants, work for ESPN, or cover the NFL in general. And Giants play a Sunday night game this week. So I want to kind of run you through what it's like to go to a night game, especially a home game. So it starts around 8:30ish, right? Whatever the exact start time is, let's say 8:30. It's hard to keep track these days with which game starts at 8:15, which game starts at 8:20, 4:25, 4:15, 4:30, like 4:35. But it's in the 8:30 range, right? So, okay, guys start coming in for arrivals at, say, 4 hours before the game is really early. So 4:30, more towards 5 o'clock. So I want to be there and in place underneath the stadium by 5 o'clock. But that means at least get to watch a good chunk, or most, not most, but I'd say I got to leave my house, give myself an hour to get there. Leave my house at like 3:30, somewhere between 3:30 and 4. Okay? So we're leaving essentially 5 hours before the game from my house. Get here about 4 hours before the game. Now, a lot of people always ask me, why don't you come by? You invite me to their tailgate. I have to be there, like I just said, at 5. So if I had to come to a tailgate, even for a night game, we're talking about, like, it would have to be really early. And then I'm in a suit, and I'm outside in the heat. I'm sweating. Like, it's tough. It's a tough thing to pull off. So most of the time I say I really can't do before the game. Now, technically I could get there at 3:30, 4 o'clock. I don't know, but you would have to be tailgating pretty early. And maybe one day I will take up a bunch of you on the offer, and we'll go around and we'll check out a bunch of different tailgates. I think that'd be pretty cool content. So you know what? We can try and do it. I think it's best for a night game, because forget about it. When we're talking about a 1 o'clock game, 4 hours before a 1 o'clock game, now you're talking about getting there at 9 a.m. So I need to be there by 9 a.m. All right. A 4:30 game, maybe a little more feasible, but you'd have to be out there again early, because 4:30 game, I'm going to be there by like 4:30. By 12:30. So I have to be before noon. Again, pretty early. Depends what time the parking lot's open, how people get there, but maybe we could pull it off. And then, you watch the people come in. I go out to the field, watch them go through their pregame warm-ups, see if everyone's looking. There's a pre-warm-up before the pregame warm-ups, if that makes sense. Like, the receivers are out there with the quarterbacks, and they all go through their warm-up routine, and they throw together. And then later on at noon, they all go out again and do a team warm-up, right? In their uniform, ready to go as a team, running through plays, getting ready, stretching, all that stuff. So it's almost like 2 pregame warm-ups before the game. In that second pregame warm-up at 12 o'clock is when you see them line up. Okay, you're going to see them line up in the starting formation, who's at what position. So you got to keep an eye on that. In between, you try to get food between the two warm-ups. Get upstairs, get set up, talk to people up there, talk to people down near the field, when you're down there before the game. So there's a lot going on before the game, and it's hard for me to get to tailgates. But the most realistic time would be for one of these night games. And so that's kind of the schedule for the night game. And then they play the game, let's say 8:30. It's over like around midnight. You're going downstairs. You're going to the locker room. You're not getting back upstairs till 1 o'clock. You're doing it. You're filing whatever stories you need to. You're done by 2. I'm not home until 3 o'clock in the morning. So I left at 4 p.m. and I'm not home or I left even earlier, 3:30 p.m. and I'm not home until 3 in the morning. So a good 12-hour day. That's kind of what a game day entails. And then the next day, especially, I'm talking about these night games, these primetime games. And then the next day, you're pretty exhausted. So that's kind of the routine we're going to be at. And then we're going to have the Monday night show on YouTube. Catch that. We're going to kind of stick to this. I know a bunch of people have asked as well. We're going to take the Monday night YouTube that I'm doing with Giants Nation show and Bobby Skinner. That's going to be posted on Breaking Big Blue as well, at least, especially on the audio side, so people can listen to the podcast. So people have asked me about that. We also have some book signings coming up. We have one in Albany on the 29th. We'll get you more details on that. But if you're in the Albany area, you want to come out, we'd love to have you. We're going to have a book signing. We're going to talk some Giants football, and then we're going to watch Monday Night Football. It's going to be a lot of fun there. So make sure if you live in that area, you come out to that. And we have another book signing, a Morristown Book Fair in October, and we're going to try and in the midst of setting one up here locally for me in Monmouth County, probably somewhere in the Freehold, Marlboro area, since that's my hometown and where I live. That'll probably be towards the end of October. So, as always, subscribe, tell your friends. Breaking Big Blue, it's where you find out the most inside information out of anywhere out there. I'm Jordan Ranan. You listen to Breaking Big Blue. See you next time.